we will be going through a series of discussions related to everything we've just covered. So try to hold these key concepts that we just went over in the back of your mind. In these discussions, similar to the ones that we've done throughout the program, I'm going to take some editorial license. These discussions are meant to engage our thinking, question our assumptions, and use our reasoning. I may express some personal opinion, but it is based on my own analysis and informed opinion. But it is just that, an opinion, my interpretation of the facts based on my personal truths, as Tyson might say. I'm offering my take on things in hope that it will help you form your own assessment. You don't have to agree with me, and I may very well be wrong. But enough talk, let's engage in some discussions. What's wrong with the reptilian brain? Specifically, what I mean is the reptilian brain concept or analogy. This concept of the reptilian brain can potentially be harmful. Portraying fear as solely governed by an innate evolutionary aspect of the brain can lead people to believe that their fear responses are predetermined and beyond any control. This notion can instill a sense of helplessness and resignation that their reptilian brain is as immutable as the law of gravity. Drawing on my own decade of experience in recovery and life coaching within correctional facilities, I cannot tell you how many times I've heard references to the reptilian brain, implying an inherent inability to change. Now, that was not only among the inmates, but also among administrators, correctional officers, lawyers, judges, police officers, social workers, and even the chaplains. The implications were clear. People are stuck this way, and they cannot change. Nothing could be further from the truth. The brain is not a battlefield between your emotions and your reason. Even using this concept as a metaphor perpetuates the myth and the misunderstandings. In fact, the source article for the image on your screen is all about how the writer's reptilian brain causes them to overeat, overstress, and overreact, and there's nothing that can be done about it. And it even implies that the reptilian brain is the source of all of our society's ills. The very idea of the reptilian brain suggests that your higher, more advanced brain is fighting the more primitive parts of your brain. This is plain wrong. And it and other misconceptions about the brain continue to persist, such as the notion that the brain is a static entity, the myth of left brain versus right brain dominance, and the widespread belief that we only use 10% of our brain's potential. Now, all of these concepts have been proven incorrect, yet they are widely repeated in pulp culture. Also, emotions are often mistakenly viewed as irrational, and misconceptions surrounding fear as a sign of weakness or its perceived difficulty in overcoming, these continue to persist. These misconceptions are contrary to scientific consensus, yet there is nothing harder to kill than a misperception. This belief exasperates feelings of powerlessness and hinders our willingness to seek help or engage in strategies to cope with our fears. It also perpetuates the misconception that fear is solely rooted in biology and cannot be influenced or changed with interventions. The main gap in understanding comes from the disparity between the technical language used in medical and scientific research and the layperson's comprehension of the topic. Numerous misconceptions about fear further complicate matters. The enduring popularity of the reptilian brain concept in pulp culture has perpetuated misconceptions about the brain's structure and function. This theory simplistically suggests that the brain is comprised of primitive structures stacked atop one another like a layered cake, with the so-called reptilian brain at the base, governing basic instinctual behaviors. However, this oversimplified view fails to account for the complexity and the interconnectedness of the brain's regions. This concept overlooks the intricate neural networks and the dynamic interactions that underlie human cognition and behavior. By reducing the brain to a hierarchical structure based on some kind of evolutionary development, it reinforces the misconception that certain behaviors or traits are immutable, governed solely by ancient evolutionary remnants, rather than subject to change through learning, experience, and intervention. Such oversimplifications hinder our potential for growth and adaptation. And yet, ironically, and even paradoxically, I use this very term in several parts of this course. What gives? Doesn't it seem contradictory to now say that it's harmful after peppering this throughout the modules? Well, yes and no. As a communication device, I felt it necessary to use it, even though I had some reservations. But this concept is ingrained in our heads. Sometimes there really is nothing harder to kill than an idea, even a bad one. So my hope is that by using it, it engages people, and through the process of engagement and going through this material, they can then decide for themselves if this idea, his time has come and passed, or if it's still worthy to be used as a metaphor. In communication theory, this is a less confrontational approach, especially to an entrenched concept. Still, many psychologists and neuroscientists contend that even as a metaphor and analogy, this concept of the reptilian brain does more harm than good. It can have too much of a detrimental effect on individuals' perceptions of themselves and their ability to manage their fears. So, some other analogies have been proposed. A modern picture of the brain emphasizes its dynamic network-like circuitry in neuroplasticity. That is, the brain's remarkable capacity to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections throughout our life. Rather than viewing the brain as a static organ with fixed functions, contemporary neuroscience recognizes it is as a highly adaptable and interconnected system. It's a system of systems. The brain consists of billions of neurons, organized in intricate networks and nodes that communicate through electrical and chemical signals. These neural networks enable complex cognitive functions, including perception, memory, emotion, and decision-making. Neuroplasticity refers to the brain's ability to adapt and change in response to experiences, learning, and environmental stimuli. Through processes such as synaptic pruning, dendritic branching, and neurogenesis, the brain continually rewires itself, modifying existing connections and creating new ones. This plasticity underlies our capacity to learn, acquire new skills, recover from injury, and adapt to changing circumstances throughout life. By understanding the brain's dynamic nature and its capacity for change, we gain insights into how experiences shape our thoughts, our behaviors, and identities, opening new avenues for therapeutic interventions, education, and personal growth.